He's been wanting to do that for a while. Okay, it's 6 o'clock and we do have a quorum. So I'll call this meeting to order. And let's see, it's Tuesday. What is the date? The 7th, 2024. This evening for our invocation, we're going to have Keene Church Senior Pastor, Elder Michael Gibson. He is a graduate of SWAU in 2016, and he has his Master's of Divinity from Andrews University. He's the youngest ever Keene senior pastor, and he became the senior pastor at 27 years of age. And he's only a few years older than that now. He previously was the associate pastor of the young adults, and he interned in 2012 as a student here. He was very instrumental in getting the Elevate program going for the younger people and some older people too. He's been active with parades through the years and Starfest, and also he helped to bring back the food bank when it had ceased to go forward for a while, and he got that going. So let's all stand for the invocation, and then we'll do the pledge.
Father, we thank you for this evening. We're gathered to conduct businesses. Do so because you've given to us the opportunity to lead this city. Tonight, Lord, I pray a blessing on individuals gathered here. They dive deep into how our city runs. That you give them wisdom and insight, and wise decisions that will last for years to come and make a positive impact on this little patch in Texas and the fall. Tonight, we trust you, God, as the shepherd. We not want. You make us lie down in green pastures. You lead us beside quiet waters. You restore our souls. Guide us in the paths of righteousness. But sometimes it feels like we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We fear no evil. You're with us, God and your staff. You prepare tables before us in the presence of our enemies. You have anointed our heads with oil. Our cups are overflowing. Surely goodness and loving kindness will follow us all the days of our lives. God, I pray on the work of this group gathered tonight. Goodness, loving kindness.
Thank you. Okay, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Thank you. Well, I don't have particularly any announcements of anything that is too outstanding. So let's just go forward with the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve it?
I have one comment.
Yes.
In the header on this page, it's Robert G. Cooper. So, easy mistake. I think it's on the previous one as well.
Instead of Roger. Oh my, I didn't see that.
I move we approve the consent agenda with that correction.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Second was Samantha. All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you. Public comments. Each person in attendance who desires to speak on an item not posted on the agenda shall speak during this section. Each speaker will be allotted 3 minutes. Since everything having to do with the charter is on the agenda, and that's our purpose here, We most likely, I don't see anybody here to speak on something not on the agenda. So let's move on to the general item number 5. Review, discuss, and consider possible action regarding call for additional recommendations of the chamber review from the public. Under this item, I have an item, and also Mr. Knott wants to bring back one little bit of information to us to try to influence us about his idea of the plurality system versus majority, and I think it's worth looking at. He also gave us a handout, so Mr. Knott, would you like to speak?
Mayor Chairman, didn't we take a vote on this last time?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we're still, okay.
Yes, he just wants to present a little bit more to us so that's out there and we can continue to consider this.
If you voted not to consider it, it was kind of unclear.
Well, in the minutes, I think it shows, yes. It failed, yes.
Well, then there's no use in me making this presentation.
Paul, I have a comment, Paul. I would curious to know what the citizens' feeling are. Is there any way to make a sign-up sheet of people that are interested in changing this? You know, some way on social media to try to get a poll to see, because I don't know the temperature of the citizens on this subject.
I thought I heard in your discussion a couple weeks ago that you would take it to the voters. Is your mic on? Is it now?
Yes, thank you.
Thanks for being here, Troy, even though you're late. Yeah. And by the way, you know, it's 100% attendance tonight. That's very, very impressive. So, you know, I'll applaud you for taking your job seriously. I was under the impression that some individual items could be taken to the voters and they would vote on that item, and that majority voting would be one of such items.
Right, but even putting it on there, we don't know if they want it. So you're speaking for it. Who else do you know that's speaking for it? Have you talked to 12 people or 200
No.
people?
No, I have not talked to anybody.
Yeah.
I've done this myself.
Yeah, I
It's a
know.
Lone Ranger campaign. But I thought they could vote it up or down.
Right, well, they can. But it'd be nice to see if they even want it.
Well, that would tell you. That vote would tell you then.
Right.
Okay. So, well, I need not waste any more of your time. So, okay,
Sorry.
all right.
Um,
Okay, you can
Thank
read
you.
that. Read that last
Good
item.
information.
Read that last item. I wish I'd have said that last item. I will take 30 seconds. This McGann is one of these guys who I've run into who studies this with all these professors, with all these PhDs. And I wish I would have written that. The argument is that the cycling ensures that parties that lose to a majority have an interest to remain enthusiastic about the city. They can stay enthusiastic because any decision can easily be overturned by another majority vote. So just think about that. Just think about an election coming up, and maybe there's a seat on this council that you would like to see change. Well, we have maybe a rabble-rouser over here that introduces a rogue candidate, and now we have a plurality, or we have 3 candidates. And with a plurality, person could win again. But with a majority, that rogue candidate's not gonna make any difference. So, because you're gonna be voting with what the majority of the people want. And, okay, you can read all that, but I guess it's a done deal, so.
Now, I do have a question. If we do put this on the ballot, is there any expense right now for us to put this on ballot and put this into the hands of the people, let them decide?
If I understand correctly, the expense to put any of these things on the ballot, to bring any amendments to the charter, that's going to be there anyway. part of what I'm hoping we'll do today is look at the things that we have at this point asked the attorney to look at, and before he gets too far into that process of preparing those motions for us to have the correct wording so he can go forward with all of the amendments, we can weed out some of the ones that may not really matter that much. There are some where we're just putting one word in there. We have to also get the voter, so that the voters understand it, each one of these things. So, you know, we voted last time to not do this, and I think it was mostly based on the money. When I go back here and look at the minutes and I read them again,
Yeah.
Gwen brought this up. But, you know, we're not that tightly controlled. We're still going to suggest to the council, at the end of the day, the council is going to be voting for or against this. The $15,000 that they think it may cost us at this point, at some point, the city secretary gets to where she can run our elections for us and we don't have to go out to the county, my understanding is it might cost about half that much. So there's that money to consider also, if the value is there or not.
Pardon me, I talked to people who know, and they're, Shauna at the elections, Johnson County Elections Office, and I gave you her number there, she's indicating $7,000 to $10,000. And here's, on page 3, is a whole group of people, including 9 PhDs, who I know would volunteer their time. And I know they could pass the online, whatever that is online.
Training.
Yeah, training. So my wife will volunteer her time, Turner's will volunteer their time. That's 3 PhDs running your polls. So I'll still speak to you all, no problem. Troy, if you would come over to my house and remove all the paint that you put on me.
And
I have a question to ask you, if you don't mind. Maybe I don't.
Cheryl,
Maybe I
Yes,
don't
sir.
understand
Yes.
it. Why are we doing this for? What reason?
And also, I would like to add to that, Cleburne just had a mayor race. They didn't use the system. The council, they had a race and they didn't use the system, and they were just fine. So, along with Mr. Johnson.
You mean their vote was a plurality vote or a majority vote?
and also,
Jen.
this list of names that you have here, they're fine people, I know a lot of them, but to be a poll worker, there takes special training.
Right, and that training is online.
And that, if they want to do, I know that training is available, but
Well, this was just my recommendation. There's people not on here, like Justin Hobbs, Twyla Bothy, Richard Bothy, Nellie Youngberg, Mickey Johnson, because they're busy during the day, they're working. The people that I'm suggesting here is just a start. I mean, you must certainly have people that you can add who would be free Monday through the following a week, a Tuesday the next week, in the 7 weekdays that are early voting.
So these people volunteered to do this?
It's a roster, it's a suggestion
Oh,
of
okay,
who could be
okay.
your poll workers.
Okay, I just was asking.
it's not volunteer.
And what I'm thinking is that, well, what I'm saying is most of them would be inclined to volunteer. Highly inclined to volunteer their time and donate it to a local cause, in my opinion, anyway.
Okay. I was just thinking that was wonderful if that many people agreed to do it already.
No, we haven't gone any further until
Okay.
until the vote's taken that you want to do this.
So have we already made a motion
But I think you've
and
made a
seconded on this?
Yeah,
Then why are we discussing this and wasting time?
I am wasting your time. Thank you for allowing me to waste your time.
You're welcome.
Okay, get that paid off there by next Friday.
Thank you. Okay, the item that I have came to me this week. The person who suggested this has come up before, and they, well, I'll just talk about, they're not able to be here this evening, but this has to do with section 1.02
Who is it?
B and C. Section 1.02, Form of Government. At this time, we have sort of a hybrid system of wards and places in how you're chosen and able to run. We have 3 wards and 3 places. All of these positions are elected at large. So we do not have a system where some big towns, like for instance Dallas, has wards to make sure that everybody is represented, that no minority or group or part of town, socioeconomic group are underrepresented. And that's the reason to have a ward. I think the wards came to us when we were general law and when the very first charter under, this is what I've been told, under home rule came into effect, they kept the wards. So back in the early 2000s, well, 2009 and forward, when I was on the council, when I was first on the council, we had Ward 1, 2, and 3. We had Place 1 and Place 2 in the wards. But all of them were wards, but we still were elected at large. That meant the whole city voted for everything. But you had to live in that ward to run for that position. Well, we had problems finding candidates, people within certain areas in those wards who were available. We got stuck with having the same people over and over. All of those kinds of things. I'll try to be brief, but then in 2014, when they made the next amendments to the charter, they went to a hybrid system where they had 3 wards, 1, 2, and 3, and 3 places. So that meant that the wards, you still had to live in that area. And some of you, like I think Gwen is a ward, so she has to live in that geographic area. The places can live anywhere in the city of Keene, and there are 3 of those, but there are 3 wards. I think Rob is a ward also. What this person said to me, it suggested to me, and I believe, and tell me if I'm correct, right now we have to pay to have the wards every so often redrawn because we have to be, at least have an equal balance of voters in each ward or within a reasonable amount. So there is an expense to maintain that. If we went to just all places 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, you could live anywhere, then we would not have to redraw the wards and make sure that they are at least equal amount of folks in them. I think our town is pretty diverse as to where people live, so we don't really have sections, or not a lot of sections that are highly populated with just one nationality or one faith or one group. So that isn't as much of a concern for us as some of these larger cities. So they would like to have us consider going to all places and to opening that up. So
Can we
Yes,
ask
go ahead,
who the
Ms. Gillen,
person
yes.
was?
Pardon?
Can we ask who the person was that wanted to?
Yes, it was Bill Gwynn, a former city manager.
Okay, I just want to make
And-
sure they knew a lot about it.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
And he just said, hey, isn't it time? He said, I meant to mention this to you earlier. Isn't it time that we go back to that? Because we took the first step last time, and now let's just, so he said, at least put it out to the committee and see what they think. Would anyone like to speak about this? I spoke to Rob about it earlier because this was put to me just in the last 24 hours.
Moments ago.
Moments ago.
Now, we spoke a couple of hours ago, and I've thought about it since then. There are some pros to that because you wouldn't have the expense of redrawing, which I don't remember how much that was the last time we did it, but it was significant. Does anyone on the council remember? I think Councilman Beeson is here.
Don't they usually redraw it after a census?
Census.
And that's
That's
because your
my
population has to be dispersed?
They want to try to, if we have any specific socioeconomic groups or ethnic groups, that they get to be fully represented so that the wards aren't prejudiced in any
It-
way.
At the next census, that'll get redrawn, because we have a lot of new housing
Yeah.
that
Yes,
wasn't at the last housing,
yes.
so that's gonna change.
But if we just move forward to be all places, then I guess we don't have to have the redrawing because we won't have wards anymore.
I think we need to think about this and put down pros and cons and before just taking a vote. I really think we need to, or that's my opinion.
I agree
Yeah.
too.
Well, we do have.
One of the things I was thinking about was the representation. Let's just suppose that since we have a lot of growth on on Ward 1 now, that it could be that the council was represented only by the people who lived in Ward 1, which would, of course, go away, but some of the other parts of town might feel like they don't have a voice.
I
So
agree.
there is some wisdom in keeping the wards, because Ward 1 seems to be where all the growth is going to be.
I agree.
Well, if you're interested in thinking about it, further discussion, talking to the attorney about it, fine. If not, we can, vote it down right now. But I am putting it out there because I've gone back and forth. I agree with, it seems as though it could become certain geographical areas don't ever have representation. But because we're all voting at large, we still have a say. So that's the good part of it. We aren't just stuck with only those people in that ward can vote for that ward, which is how some places have it. So the good news is everybody is voted in at large.
But if they we redraw it, would it not include those new people coming in?
It will. What it's gonna do is it's gonna change, like, if Ward 1 grows larger, now the boundaries between 1 and 2 is gonna change. And some people who are in Ward 1 now are gonna be in Ward 2. Same thing with 3.
Yeah.
It's gonna change those boundaries between them. But I think we need to keep the wards for that sense of equality to that ward. They have somebody that lives in that area.
Yeah.
And I think that was
That's
the
their
reason
voice.
why we kept it in 2014. In fact, I know it is.
Yeah.
We felt like that still gave people that. But a lot of places are just totally open. The school board is completely open.
Yeah.
If you just live in the district, you can run for an office.
Well, and for the school board, I think that's wise, because the district is the city, that's the school board. But to have a ward gives people in your neighborhood someone they know they can talk to. If all of our council members live in what we know as the new addition, some of those in the older part of town on College may feel like they're underrepresented.
Sure. Okay.
Makes sense to me.
Which they might feel that right now, because there is 5 members of council that live on the west side of Old Betsy right now, and only 1 on the east side. So, but that's because of the way the wards are drawn.
Right.
So the wards still are affecting both sides, but it is 5 on one side, and we only have 1 on the other side currently. So, I mean,
And, well, there's,
I spoke with the gentleman who ran against Mr. Foster, and he said that a long time ago, most everybody who lived on that side was on city council at one point. So I mean, I
Yeah.
think there's gonna be a little bit of a balance.
There was
There's
a
gonna be balance.
time,
there's 3 city council members that live north of City Hall. Think about that. Of where we're sitting, 3 of us live there.
yeah, it's a funny thing. I mentioned to Rob at one point, I think along 4th Street and 1 block off of 4th Street, when I was on the council, there were 5 council members.
Yes.
4 of us were on 4th. So that's just because of
How it
how the
flows.
lines were. Now they were in the wards, 2 of them were down in Ward 1,
Ackermans.
and Dale, James, and I were in Ward Ward 2, because we were on the other side of 4th Street. So those kinds of things happen, and then Chad Aiden, I think, was just 1 block away.
And then Mr. Cooper,
Yeah, and Mr. Cooper was way off down over here.
yeah, by college.
But, you know, this is something to think about. I can't guarantee you that if we made everything at large, it would give us a better spread, because the same people who are interested in being a part of government would still be interested.
Correct.
So, and I don't know why Ward 3 has always had a problem finding candidates. You would think they would be interested, but that's one of the wards that seems underrepresented too. So,
Well, we're
Anyway.
overrepresented now.
Maybe we should leave it until next charter change.
that's fine with me.
And that way we find out how many of the new people are actually even gonna go vote.
Sure. If someone would like to make a motion, we can just do it now and not talk about it anymore, or if you want to bring it up and get some advice from the attorney next time, give it a week to, that's fine with me. I've brought it up and presented it and given you something to think about.
Great idea, but
So, anyone like to make a motion, or would you like to wait? Okay,
Let's just table it.
table it for now?
okay,
Get
sounds
some more
good.
info.
Going forward, I had talked to a couple of you about maybe not having this meeting, but because the attorney cannot come until next time. But I sort of felt like that folks may want to look at all the things that they've done. Holly has prepared 2 things for us. One is just sort of a recap of everything that was discussed last time. It's a 1-page, well, front and back. And then everything updated with the way we left it last time with the red lines in it. If there is anything tonight that we want to determine not to go forward on, this would be the time to do it, so that the city attorney doesn't spend any more time than he may have already getting these things ready for us to put on the ballot as amendments. So if there's anything that you think isn't going to make that much difference, if it's just a word that doesn't really change the meaning, I don't know, for instance, what all of those words necessarily are. There's been some talk about how in the past, people didn't understand the amendment number 8 last time in 2014. It has come back to us again. And what it is where we're going to change the number of people. I have lost my note where that is. To make,
For a call of a meeting,
pardon?
for a call of a meeting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we were out of compliance with the law. That was not voted in last time, but it was on the amendments. People just left it at 4. But that was out of compliance with the state law. So, of course, we've been following the law because that's going to trump our charter. This time, it's going to be back up again, and hopefully we can make sure that everyone understands that it's not just because I think one attorney said we have 2 rogue council members trying to force something through. It's because we want to comply with the law. So we have to keep that one, but if anyone has any concerns or input, this is the time to do it.
Cheryl, these items that we are changing, I'm talking about changing in the charter that are per law, do we still have to let the people vote on that?
Yes, that's,
We do, okay. I thought, if it's
Yes,
a
I
law
had
that
the
we
same
do it a
question.
different way.
I thought, well, if it was a typo or having to change the word from referendum to recall or those, but we have to do it.
Okay, that answers that.
We just have to educate the voters.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think Holly counted these, we have 15. Is that what you told me? Well, the last time I counted, yes. And we didn't add any on so far. Okay. Anyone have, okay, Troy, do you have something to say on this?
No, I was just,
Well, this could be a short meeting, so, I'll make up my 4 minutes to you guys.
you need to do that at least, so.
I don't know, in the interest of shortening it down from 15, how about that one that's $20 for the scheduled meeting of the council?
Right.
Yeah, I don't see any need for that. We're a tight city, we can't get our streets fixed, and now all of a sudden we're asking for more money for the council members. It's a pittance to begin with, but it doesn't set a good precedent.
Yeah, we have 5 members of the council here on this committee. If you guys are going to vote that down anyway, we might as well just take it away, because I don't think anyone's too worried about the $20.
Let me comment on that. I made a comment last week. In fact, it was in reference to the voting. I don't want the citizens of this commission to think that the council is just going to automatically vote stuff down. I'm here listening to every word and everyone speaking here. Now, because we offer an opinion, please don't say, that's it, because we may change our mind or whatever. So keep your arguments going.
Okay. I wanted to give each and every one of you an opportunity to speak about each one of these items here tonight. You don't have to just because you can, but I don't want anyone to feel like they didn't get to speak their piece about their particular thing that they feel strongly about.
So with that being said, I'm going to segue into, I want to go back to Paul Knott's presentation just for a moment. And let's think about this. We have an attorney sitting in our council meetings every meeting to the tune of a couple $100 an hour because the mayor and some council members got off to a rocky start. If there were 3 people going for the mayor's position this time, it could be that we got to pay another couple $100 an hour for an attorney to keep sitting there because of 3 people. If it's a 2-person race, then I can understand, I'll take whichever way the majority goes. But that $5,000 or $7,000 it costs us for a runoff might save us attorney's fees down the road. Just something to think about. If you do $250 an hour times 3 hours, I actually did 2.5 times 26 meetings a year, I'm looking at $15,000 paying Mr. Brown. So just something to think about.
Maybe we should make a motion in council not to have him there. If that's the consideration. Let's get an opinion from the other folks.
He shouldn't be there unless needed, unless there's something specific that the council thinks they need him there for. Because you guys are educated people, you know what you're doing with the city. Most of you have been here a long time. So what do you need the attorney to sit there for, unless it's an emergency or something unusual that's come up?
Well, unfortunately, he's there merely as a parliamentarian. So
Well,
that's the hard, cold facts.
and of course, just my opinion, but, which probably doesn't matter, but the only thing I've noticed about the attorney being here is that when he brings something up and says something, 9 times out of 10, he's gonna get an argument from the mayor about being wrong. And so when it's streamed, I'm sitting there saying, why didn't he say something? He's the attorney. I mean, anyway, like I said, just my opinion.
I have people that ask me all the time why we got lawyers here.
To your mother.
I have people all the time asking me why we have a lawyer here. And I say, the mayor, that's our main problem, is the mayor, that why we have to have a lawyer here, I believe. That's a lot of money we're paying out for the same reason you said. If we need them, let them be here when we don't need them. But 90.9, we need them because of Lisa.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
So I think what Rob is saying is that perhaps considering this majority vote rather than the plurality system might be a better system given the climate in this town, the voting climate.
Just don't want to dismiss it only on the fact that it's going to cost the city money. We have a $5 million budget. We've lost probably a good, not a good share, but potentially some businesses coming to this town because of all the crud on Facebook. So how do we put a price on that?
There's another business closing too, this Mexican food place. I saw it's closing.
I've had,
Massage parlor went out of town.
I've had people outside of Keene. Chris Salone, I was helping him with his campaign, and he mentioned to me about the drama on Facebook. To me, that's embarrassing.
It is.
So would you be,
I would be,
are you thinking that perhaps Rob's proposal of reconsidering the majority versus plurality is a good idea to prevent that?
yes, I'm leaning in favor towards that in order to combat, our current climate we have right now and, actually have voter confidence back in with the council.
I'm at a loss to understand how a vote
Yeah.
is going to stop Facebook. If we need to stop Facebook, and I solicit your opinion, so
Yeah.
please respond. If we need to do something about Facebook, we need to do it in this charter right now.
I mean, we can't stop them from publishing their hate, but, what we can stop is the misbehavior that's happening inside this room. And that's, we gotta lead by example and, have a, everybody working together. It starts from the top, working down.
That's not gonna stop.
But they do have the code of conduct now,
Yeah.
which is in place.
And rules and procedures.
Yes.
So we've taken steps
And it's
in that direction.
But there's no teeth in it.
Then this charter needs to make teeth.
Yeah.
And you said that in the beginning. If this committee wants to make teeth, speak up and let's make teeth.
I believe we were adding teeth on 3.06, section 7. Yeah, we got in here, repeat knowing and willful violations of the adapted code of conduct. We were asking the city attorney to kind of define what's repeated.
I think that's up to us to decide, whether it be 1, 2, 3 times. However, we go back to the Facebook thing, everybody posts anonymous now. There's no way of knowing who said what, whether it be Councilman Johnson or Councilman Foster. They could have fake accounts as well as anybody else. So you're not gonna know who is saying what. So it's hard to put that teeth into that with all the fake stuff out there.
That is tough.
I think we need it, but I don't know how you're going to enforce it.
I can put teeth in it. Well, basically, the Facebook is going to, the people on there, they're after council people. They're after people who volunteer for the city. They're after anything that's good in this city. Our manager, our police chief, our fire chief, everybody, anybody that's gonna try to do anything good, they're after. And they do it anonymously. And they keep doing it, and now they not only have anonymous names, they're stealing other people's identities to do it. In Keene, business people's identities, things like that. So I don't know how we can get any teeth into it for that, but we sure need to try to do something.
Because if you remember right, this started months and months ago on Keene Citizen, which is Gutwal's page, run by his wife, who is a co-worker of Lisa Parrish. For many, many months, they allowed the ugly, ugly, ugly. None of us had recourse to respond, defend, et cetera, et cetera. And the few that did defend, the ones getting attacked, which is some on this stage right now, they immediately got bombarded with the ugly. And it then carried over with a certain amount of people to that page, the usuals, the ones they call the old, good old boy network. And then it went over to people like, but if he said something on Keene residents, Anonymous would go attack him. Neighbors would get bumped up, Beeson would get bumped up. And then me and Stephen continually are getting name called. So this definitely needs to have teeth. I stand behind anything and everything I've ever stated. I have no issues with that. Anonymity, the only time I've had to use my second account is because I was blocked from my original account. And no, regardless of what the others have said, and I have every right to see what's being said about me, my family. And now it's escalated to very ugly threats. And that's why Stephen is not here tonight, so he can watch our home and our family. This has gotten out of hand, because like I said, me and Stephen gladly stand behind everything we say. And I've told more than one person on media, come tell us to our face, and let's do like adults, not the cowardice. And now this long story has been posted that there's mention of guns and whatnot. This is not right. This is no way for any of us to live. Like I said, put your name out there, and that's another thing. I know my name is out there, and I'm right here. Let's deal with adults. That's why there needs to be teeth, because any council that's sitting up here, be it the mayor or whoever, a council person that has a page that allows the fellow council to get attacked, attendees to be targeted time and again, that needs to cease.
I think that's what the attorney was talking about here on the repetition of stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, in my estimation, if we can find some way to find out who those people are that are repeating this.
But changing the charter isn't going to do that, and that's what we're here for, to
Yeah.
try to put something in the charter that will at least give us a standard
Yes, because social
to
media,
judge it by.
internet, it's a new thing. It's the old way of doing things. It's outdated. Social media, the laws need to
Yeah.
catch up to that, obviously.
I do not have my book, my regular book there that I kept for years. I keep everything from all the meetings and stuff. And there's an ordinances in there that there's like 6 different things that would pertain to the Facebook stuff. And if I can remember it next time, I'll make copies for every one of you. Well, I think I did. With that last thing, it was those 6 things that were listed on there that pertain to social media. And so if we can kind of look at that, maybe everybody look at it this time and maybe address this again at the next meeting or something.
What I want to say about that is, what we're doing is, it's 2 parts right here. We have with our charter here, we're giving teeth to that ordinance. The ordinance itself can always get updated by the council as needed. So we're just giving the council the power to utilize that ordinance.
Okay.
So as more issues progress, or as there becomes greater needs, the council itself can amend that and shape it to the way it needs to be.
So tell us which item that was again. I had
That was
my page.
3.06, number 7.
Number 7, right.
And that's a good one, thank you.
And so that's where the attorney recommends adding knowing and willful to read repeated knowing and willful violations. Also recommends adding clarification of repeated, such as a specific number. So he expressed caution in that. We talked about that. So I think we were going to leave out the numbers. But at the end of the day, the council will have to be the judge of this, because it will be at their discretion. I don't think discretion is the word that was used, but they will have to police themselves. Okay. We're bouncing around, but I said I wanted you each to get to say what you needed to say about these items. Are there additional items of concern?
I do have one we can cross off since we decided there was no change to it, was 11.09. When I was comparing it to the original charter, it's word for word. And, a lot of this, falls under the code of conduct has an ethics part. So that circles back to the 3.06, section 7.
And it says there's no change really made in the section
Yeah,
11.09.
Oh, 9.
yeah.
Does anyone have a disagreement with that? Okay.
Are we still on section 3.02?
Well, you can raise your hand. I'll acknowledge you. I do want to let you guys express yourselves, so as long as it doesn't get too out of control, I'm willing for you not to just address me, but to be able, we've worked well together here, and so I'm fine with that. If it starts to go crazy, then I'll have to get the hammer from Ray. But if you want to move to another item, that's fine. If you want to go back to
Well,
3.09.
So I'm the one who initiated 3.02. I thought, as a citizen, it was more of an out of respect thing that we should give the council people enough money to drive their car here and back, every 2 weeks. And so that's why I asked for the $20, and I'm standing by it, and I still agree to it, but I don't want to be I'm not here to change anybody's mind about it. I just want to do what I feel is right for the people that come here to think they're serving, with no strings attached, and you want that. But as a citizen, I feel like that is something that's passionate to me to want to give to them, to make sure that they feel appreciated for what they are doing.
I'm wondering, Bobby's talked about some of these things, if we can be handled by ordinance. Is this an item that periodically a council can look at what the cost of living is, or consider it, and it doesn't have to be so specific in the charter? Can we ask the attorney about that?
Yes.
So that as time goes by, if a group feels like, the $50 expense allowance, you can't even take somebody you're talking to about economic development out even for that. I mean, I don't know how much the cost of everything is going to go up. It's gone up tremendously just in the last 20 years of my life.
I did ask a third party, not a lawyer or anything like that, but the thing that was mentioned, which actually made a lot of sense, is if we leave it to the council, they could pay themselves whatever they want. So that's why it is in the charter. So that way there can't be a discrepancy, and the council can't just change things whenever they feel like it.
So you think it's still better to leave it at a dollar amount?
And I stand behind that. I firmly believe that, I don't want to say it takes the power away from the council, but it limits the council's ability to be able to run amok and, hey, I need my mortgage paid this month. Can we raise that? And so I think that is why it's so worded so minuscule.
Okay, and there was a motion and a second on that.
But I got something to say. Go ahead.
Let me just, Samantha, and then I'll come.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I just remembered something I wanted to say about social media. Can the charter have anything to do with our mayor, anywhere, setting up an official mayor page and be able to block citizens from being able to see it or actively interact with her?
I would think we can ask the attorney about that, but he did mention it may have been in one of our council meetings. It may have been here, I can't remember. I looked at a whole lot of council meetings this last week in preparation for this, so that some of the meetings I didn't attend, I would be reminded of, and some that I did attend, I would be reminded of. But a mayor or anyone has the same rights as everyone else. And so even though they're an elected official, if they want to set up a page, they can have a page.
But it's a private mayor page, not private person page. And that's what I was saying. If you're the mayor of the entire city, then anybody should be able.
Well, that, we can ask. That's maybe,
I was just asking because to me that seems kind of unusual.
could be something, but there are a lot of places, and Mr. Battle, am I ignoring you? Do you have something to say in regards to this?
I can't speak to this specific example, but I know an example from my former world in the fire service. If you do have a page that you're representing city interest, you are subject to records retention law, open record stuff. So I would defer to the attorney on that specific question, but
Thank you.
I know if you're in your interest
Yeah.
as a entity of the city, that
Well,
counts.
I know that is what we were told when I was on council before, when Facebook started being a thing, that anything that we said there could be requested, and it was available to everyone. So, okay, Ray.
Well, I'm just want to tell Troy, I appreciate you wanting to give us a raise, but I don't think one of us up here need a raise. And we're not here to get the money, really. The $20, they could keep it.
We don't have the money you have, Ray, I get that.
That's fine. You can say what you want, but what I'm saying, $20 is not gonna make you or break you.
I get that, so,
Plus, we don't want
You don't
the
bond.
public thinking that every council up here, I mean, if we vote for that, what do you think the people out here gonna think? That's my question. What are they gonna think? They, what, they want money? No, we don't need that.
okay.
Thank you, though. I appreciate that.
It's just,
If we need money, we'll just talk to the city manager.
I was fixing to say, you ask me every week.
If you need money, just go ask Troy.
one other thing, yeah, one other thing that I was thinking this week was, I wasn't sure how we were gonna come to this process, but one thing that I was adamant about is when we agree or disagree on these things, I'd like to see a 75% vote. So 9 of the 12 need to say that yes, they would like this, because the confidence of having a 7-5 vote, to me, doesn't constitute putting it on the ballot, because you've only got 62% of the vote in this room that like the idea versus the other, right? So I would like to see at least 75% of when we vote up or down on these things, instead of a 50%, you know, or more.
are gonna vote.
So, I don't know if that makes sense to everybody.
It does, but it's
So
going to
far-
the council.
It does, but.
On our votes, hasn't it pretty much the most has been 9-3? That was, otherwise it's been pretty much unanimous, or somebody maybe abstained.
There was a close one that was really close, 6-4.
Yeah.
And which item was that?
It was this one, actually. If you look at the minutes, section
Okay.
3 point, if you look at the minutes, you just approved section 3.02. I have the actual motion carry. The motion carried 6-4.
Yes.
And then the next one, section 3.03, you had one fail because 4 voted for and 6 opposed. Then there was another motion, I think that one, let's see. You ended up taking no change on that section. So you've got a couple in there that are real close, but for the most part, most of them were pretty much unanimous or a big difference in yays and nays.
So I don't want to go against what I said earlier, but in this case, when we're discussing something that directly affects council and only council, and you got 5 council members here, and I think all of us are saying we don't want to raise, I think you've got your answer.
And I'm fine with leaving it off. I was just staking my claim and just doing what Mr. Bell's actually told us to do in the beginning. Stand by what you said.
And that's true, but in this case, it doesn't affect anyone but council. That's why I stand up and say, this is kind of an exception to that. We want to hear from you guys, and we appreciate the fact that you're trying to give us a raise, but none of us want a raise. So I think if the rest, do we need to take another vote or another motion?
I was just going to say, would someone like to make a motion to strike this from the things we want Mr. Chester to work on? Are you making the motion, Samantha, or are you asking a question?
I was going to, but
Okay.
let him do it and I'll second it.
I'll do you first.
Okay, I make a motion to strike the part about the,
3 point,
yeah, 3 point, whatever it was. 02,
point oh two.
3.02.
No, I'll second.
And second by Easley. All in favor?
Raise them high. Thank you.
Thank you for standing strong, Troy.
Opposed?
Can I say something? Troy could give us $100. I mean, $20 a piece ain't no big deal to him.
I just wanted to come paint my house.
Okay. What else do you have to discuss that you would like to keep or get rid of? And you don't have to bring up why you want to keep something if it's already here.
Let's look at 3.03. I'm okay with number 1, but let's strike number 2.
3.03. Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem Charles Isley motioned that the council would select Mayor Pro Tem Samantha Gillen. Seconded, motion failed 4-6. Easley, Gillen, James Bells Baggett in favor. Robert Foster motioned to give mayor 1 nomination for Mayor Pro Tem. Then the nomination would go to the council should the mayor's nomination fail, and in the case of a tie, the mayor would break the tie on the council's nomination. Oh, sorry. Troy Smith seconded the motion. The motion passed unanimously, adding the statement of Mayor Pro Tem retaining right to vote as a council member when presiding over a meeting brings the charter and rules of order and procedure in agreement with one another. No action taken on that. So you want to strike what? You want to keep one? What is it you want to keep?
I want to keep what is labeled 3.03, Article 1, or Paragraph 1, where it says if the motion for the council to select the mayor fails by the vote, then we give the mayor 1 nomination. I don't like the way that's worded, to be honest with you. I think it should say, start with motion to give the mayor 1 nomination for Mayor Pro Tem. If that fails by vote, then the nomination go to the council, and it happens at the same meeting, the meeting of the canvassing of the votes.
Okay.
Did you catch that, City Secretary?
Yes. Okay. Do we need to make a
She's
motion on
good.
that, or shall we just pass that on for clarification, Holly?
The number 2 part, though, was talked about because if the mayor wasn't here, the mayor pro tem can still retain the right to vote, and that's what you're saying you don't want anymore?
That's already in the charter, I believe.
I think he probably just gave us the whole thing. It's already there, and that's part of it. Says adding, the motion passed unanimously, adding the statement of the mayor pro tem retaining the right to vote as a council member when presiding over a meeting. Okay. I think it says what Rob wants.
Okay, if I can explain. On the sheet, these are like our notes. They came straight from the minutes. So there was a motion for just the council to be able to select Mayor Pro Tem, and that motion failed by vote of this Charter Review Commission. So this next motion was to give the mayor 1 nomination for Mayor Pro Tem, and that would be after the canvassing of votes of the election. And then if the nomination fails, it would go to council to make the next nomination, and the mayor could be the tiebreaker on that. And so this would all take place at, from my understanding, from what y'all talked about, at the council meeting after canvassing the vote.
And I think that's great. Can you all agree that that's what we intended? That's what I thought it meant. So you do give the mayor a chance to appoint, to have the mayor pro tem of their choice, which is usually fine with everyone. Okay,
Because this is my verbiage, it's not from the attorney. It'll be next meeting when you get the official verbiage from the attorney on these changes.
And I stand corrected that part 2, we need that as well, because in the charter it says, the mayor pro tem shall act as mayor in the absence of the mayor and shall have the same duties and powers as the mayor when doing so. Well, if the mayor pro tem is acting as the mayor, they cannot vote except for the case of a tie. So we do need part 2 in there, because when he is, or he or she is overseeing the meeting, they still need to have the power to
retaining
vote.
the right. Retaining the right, so that needs
As
to
their
be left.
council member,
Yes.
Yes.
We need both part 1 and 2, at least.
yes.
I think we do.
Because, yes.
Yeah, I think that was
Is
decided.
there any
that day.
further discussion? Does anyone disagree with that? Okay. I know Mr. Chesser gave a lot of examples of when mayor pro tems did and didn't vote. And so this will clarify it, so they never have to wonder, oh, can I vote or not? Okay.
So we should need a motion?
Do we need to vote on all these or make a motion on all these?
Yes. Go ahead. Yes.
I make a motion that we keep on section 3.03, mayor pro tem, examples 1 and 2, both be added to the section.
Second.
All in favor? Okay.
Thank you.
I guess the pro tem isn't going to vote.
Oh, you're gonna abstain?
I don't want everybody to think me.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't want to vote. Thank you, though.
Okay.
In section 3.05, I still don't see any verbiage to the effect of if the city manager is unable to write the letter to the city secretary, does the city council take over? It's only after a short absence that the city council takes over. I'd like to see some kind of verbiage for an emergency situation.
The way it looks right now, the way I read it, it doesn't even discuss when or if the city manager resigns. And that's what we run into in the past. I'm with you. I think that needs to be addressed a little bit differently.
Now, I think another thing on that deal, if we did vote, I think if we did vote, the mayor shouldn't be able to vote on a tie on that deal there. I mean, not tie, not vote, but you know,
Break the tie.
right, because I mean, it happened before, and we don't need that kind of problem here.
Well, there's always the possibility that the mayor doesn't vote at all and lets the whole thing die. That's one of the options too. So you don't have to vote to break the tie.
But if I remember right, Mr. Batla actually suggested something that I thought that's why Mr. Cheshire and Mr. Batla spoke to this together, and with an emergency plan in place, and maybe that's what he was about to refer to, then it would already be preset. So then that way, if there was an absence, then the next person that he deemed to be in that position would go in that position. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's correct. That is preset in the emergency operations plan. My suggestion would be you could simply change this, instead of the city manager may, the city manager shall. That means it's always in place, a written directive.
All right.
Agree.
Okay, any further discussion
Yeah,
on
but
that?
it has to be a state of emergency shall be deemed to exist during periods of impending or actual public crisis or disaster. The city manager leaving
It's not an
is not,
emergency.
is not considered an emergency according to our charter. Or a city manager who's, heaven forbid, in a car accident, or is rendered, you know,
But if he leaves and we don't have a city
Resigns.
manager,
yeah. I just want some verbiage in there to cover
everything,
every potential
yeah.
outcome, eventuality, that's all.
Sort of the only thing that happened to our current city manager.
Okay, so,
Is there a way to put in there, or if the city manager resigns?
yeah, so Mr. Bales brought up the specific incident that brought all the trouble here that has been hard to determine is a resignation, and it's still not addressed. So if the city attorney could bring us something back about resignation.
Well, we addressed that in another area. Didn't we
Was
make it, didn't we?
in the powers of the city manager?
No, we made it, somewhere in here, we talked about that the mayor cannot be the interim city manager.
Right.
Yes.
So that would moot it. The issue we had was someone nominated the mayor, it went to a tie, and she voted herself, current mayor, to be interim city manager. There's language in here that doesn't allow the mayor to be interim city manager.
So it's back in the powers of, was that back in the powers of the mayor?
It's duties of the mayor,
Duties of the mayor?
I think.
Yeah, it's in section 501D.
501B.
Neither the mayor or any council member may be appointed to city manager.
That's because they changed it.
So I thought, but I don't find it in what Holly gave us. That we had addressed this, that there was, it says, this was in the draft, the change was gonna be, in the absence or disability of the city manager, a city council-appointed designee will perform the duties of the office with the approval of the city council. So,
So the council will appoint the city secretary or the public works director or the chief of police. We just can't appoint the mayor or any member of council to take that position. No. Yeah.
I'm wondering if this can be resolved by doing a ordinance of making sure that there's an emergency action plan
They're already-
in place.
I think that's what
He's saying
Brent
there
is.
there's always an emergency plan in it.
So maybe the verbiage needs to be that in the event of the absence of a city manager, the ordinance of orders of who takes charge takes precedence.
let's
Did
find
you-
out from
yeah.
the attorney
Okay.
if that's a good fix for it, or if we have to go more specific, because you still have a time. Let's say somebody just says, I'm done, boom, I'm leaving.
So Brent, you're working up a hierarchy of who's gonna support you if you're not here. That's gonna be yours, or is that the city's?
The city adopts the emergency operations plan.
Okay, so in the event that the city manager leaves, the city shall follow the adopted emergency, would you call it?
The emergency operations plan.
Bingo.
And I think it's done at the county level. I think the city probably submits its portion to that county plan. So I'll have to do some research to see if, and, well, we would have had to adopted it, so, to see what that says. But normally, there's a continuity of government section that, there's always a continuity of government section that says the hierarchy.
Yeah, so we just need to say that when we don't have a city manager, that's what we follow.
Right, but But you can't say that ordinance number such and such, you can't say that because even Mr. Chester said last week that it's not good to put the ordinance number in there because those things change and they can be amended, so then it's not valid.
Right, well, you
Put it in a
say,
charter.
you say that we will follow the current emergency preparedness ordinance, no numbers. You put current, and then as it changes, that's the most current one. So the charter says most current one is the one you're gonna use. So the ordinance changes up and down through the years, but the charter still refers to the one that's last as current.
The current.
But council should be able to do that too. I mean,
Yeah, but this just streamlines it to where council doesn't have to act on it. We've already approved it to happen.
okay,
And if the new council that comes up in 2 years wants to change that, they change that by changing the ordinance, but it's always the current.
I got you. Okay.
Okay,
I agree with that.
do you have anything, Rob? See this look on your face?
Yeah. I just know that, has there been a hierarchy put in place before yours?
Yeah, we would be under a current emergency operations plan, and that should be in there. I have not looked at it yet. I'll have to go
So
get it.
they might want to be better informed about what it is.
My only concern is that, okay, so that in the event of your absence, then that puts, we'll say, the fire chief in control, okay? Now, he's acting as the city manager. Well, this is a council-run city, not a fire chief or a police chief-run city. So I feel like, in the absence of a city manager, that all control should go to the council. In the event of an emergency, which would be deemed to exist during periods of impending or actual public crisis or disaster, by all means, he should have control because he's trained in that. But for things like extended sickness of our city manager,
Absence.
Or him resigning.
or absence, I think the council should have the control then, other than the police chief or fire chief. That's just me. I'd like to see verbiage that put in our.
So, yeah, the emergency operations plan would be limited to those emergency situations.
Right, but just a resignation of our city manager, if you just resign and you're gone tomorrow,
Yeah, it would not cover that.
no, and that's what I want to see in here.
Then we make one. We make that flow chart.
No, but it needs to be in the charter that the city council has that,
That's what,
has that
Well,
He's saying
ability.
we need to
so we need to
recommend
state it. We need to make it right now.
That's what I'm saying, I'm asking the attorney to put that in the charter.
No, we tell the attorney what the flow chart, so when the city manager resigns, who's in charge?
No, it's not a flow chart, it's the
Well-
city council is, what?
in the 501D, his suggested change was, in the absence or disability of the city manager, a city council-appointed designee will perform the duties of the office with the approval of the city council. Doesn't that put the city council in charge?
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
So I think that's what it's still staying with.
So we would have an emergency city council meeting in the absence of the city manager. We'd have a meeting and appoint an
Well-
employee of the city.
It does look that way.
Yeah.
So then you're saying no, you're
Well,
saying that's not what.
That's not deemed, and I'll ask our city secretary, an emergency. You can't have an emergency. Is that the way you understand it?
But you can still
Well,
have a special called meeting, can't you, to,
Or maybe a special call meeting, but not an emergency
so you
meeting.
still have the 72-hour gap?
Right.
Yeah, there's two separate things going on here in this.
Yes.
One, the temporary absence, which can be anything. I mean, I could be on vacation, but I
Yes.
would still want to, we would still want a chain of command in place. And then emergency, which would be a whole separate
It's two.
deal, yeah.
So when you have an assistant city manager, which you do not have here, then that seems clearer, so somehow. you're wanting-
I guess there's three things going on here. You have a temporary absence, sick, vacation, et cetera. You have absence or disability exceeding 30 days, and then you have an emergency. So the emergency operations plan would only cover that last one, but, so,
So we need guidance from the attorney on this.
Well, I think it can be addressed if we look at 305C. C, Charlie? The last sentence,
Yeah, I think
we were going to make some changes on that, right?
Yes.
So I think it was going to read, in the absence of the city manager, the city council appointed designee will assume the responsibility of the city manager with approval by the city council. Yet I don't see that in the
Red line.
red line or in the information from city secretary,
But that's in
305C.
305C. But over here in 501D, it did say, in the absence or disability of the city manager, a city council appointed designee will perform the duties.
I think we're
So
going to
it just
strike,
needs to be in both places?
I think we're going to strike 501D completely from the charter, if I remember right, because it was redundant. It'd already been addressed in 3.
No, Mr. Chester said this is focusing on,
Yes, one is the powers of the
yeah,
council, and the other is the powers of the city manager.
So they need to work together.
Okay. Well, then we need to take the mayor out of 501D.
Correct.
That's correct.
501D.
Yes, and that
Yes,
is
it's been
marked
struck.
out.
So let's hear from the people that are afraid to speak up on it.
Well,
We're listening.
Bobby, Jen,
I'm the quiet one.
I agree. Nothing additional to add to it. I agree with you guys. I agree with you guys. I don't really have anything to add to it. Sounds good.
okay, Stephanie? Okay, okay.
I don't think it would hurt to get some clarification from the attorney.
Ray, you've been quiet. Okay. Okay,
And again, I copied this verbiage from the video. He kind of mumbled it as it went. But to address the final sentence that you had mentioned, he sort of stretched it out to the city council may by resolution appoint an officer of the city to perform the duties of the city manager until the city manager shall return or such a disability shall cease. But again, we haven't received the full official language from the attorney on this section because it was a big discussion.
So if you'll recall, council members, when this situation arose, there was some talk about bringing in Mayor Heinrich to serve as the interim city manager, who would not be a city employee, who would do it for free of charge. So I would just like to leave the verbiage say, council-appointed designee, rather than saying that it has to be a city employee. What do y'all think about that?
Yes.
so it could be either one.
I think having Mayor Heinrich for free is a way better deal for the city than me. Let's just be honest.
it's on the agenda.
Okay. I think that Holly will get with the attorney on this, so we can move
Skip this
forward.
one for now.
I think we've got it.
Y'all have another,
Smashed out.
do you have another item? We have some really quiet people here. It's-
We're not used to speaking in front.
It
I
takes
like-
a while.
I like 3.06. I like what he put on number 2, adding the words, under section 5,
Yes.
if they're convicted of a felony while in office or crimes of moral turpitude. I think that's a good idea.
Agreed.
And then under number 7, which we added, repeated violation of the code of conduct, knowingly and willfully, I think that's a good idea as well.
Yes.
But it says repeated. How many times is repeated?
That's up to the council. I would not put a number on that.
Okay.
It could be 2 or 6,
Yep,
still repeated.
So it's at the council's discretion?
I think so.
Okay.
When I was raising my kids, repeated was 2.
If you do it again,
Yes.
you're in trouble.
And then, of course, 308C, that's the walking quorum issue, so that has to stay.
But that that's,
Changing it from 4 to 2 members who
Yes.
can call a special meeting.
and that's the thing that didn't pass previously, because people just didn't understand it.
We just gotta-
Um,
yeah.
Oh, that's 3.08,
C?
letter C. Currently, it says there have to be 4 of us call the special meeting.
That's a quorum.
That's a quorum.
We just have to educate the voters.
So I'd like to table 3.06 because of the, what we had asked about for the spouses and significant others. He wanted to, he cautioned us to put that in there. Didn't think that was a good idea, so I think that one might be one that we might want to make sure that we get the right verbiage for before we say yay or nay to.
So he's saying, he's recommending adding knowing and willful, to read repeated knowing and willful violations, and then adding clarification of repeated. He said, don't do that. And then he said, and he also cautioned against spouses and significant others. So we were going to scratch that.
Correct.
Right,
It's
so until he writes that language in there, until,
It is on the, over here.
oh, because it's not in there yet.
Right, so this is
Yeah.
Okay,
the
so-
notes, and you have to work the notes with the,
Okay.
Yeah.
the
So
the
she
red line.
gave us 2 papers. Are you looking at those? One-
Yeah, I have them both. I
Okay.
just,
It's,
So
yeah, I had to
that's
get it.
there. Some of these things are just going to bring the charter and council rules of procedure in agreement.
So is 409 what Mr. Knott was discussing?
Yes.
Okay, so that's tabled, or is that on?
Well, we had a motion to not change it and to leave it as it is.
Okay.
And it carried
See, it's on here.
unanimously.
The motion to not change the section to candidate.
What do we think about 3.09?
Well,
Currently, it says you gotta have to have 4 people for an emergency meeting to pass something.
and changing it to a majority,
Yeah.
which the attorney agreed with.
Yes.
because if you have a quorum present and then you have majority of that quorum, that's all you would have to have, correct? That's what that means.
Yes.
In an emergency.
So we're going to leave that as a recommendation.
Yes.
I hope some of you are going to be willing to try to educate voters as to what this means.
And how do you suggest we do that?
Get out and talk to your
Vote yes to all.
constituents.
We've got emails, and I never get an email.
Never get-
They're listed on
And
the
no-
city, and nobody sends emails saying, hey, that, I get some calls, but, you know,
We
it,
could have some town hall meetings.
okay.
We could get the chamber, but we
Would-
could get the chamber to help run them.
Okay.
Would a mailer going to every citizen of Keene, every registered voter in Keene, explaining these options, explaining why we're doing them?
And who pays for it?
Well,
City does.
What? If y'all mentioned a town hall meeting, if you had that and it was streamed, oops. If we did the town hall meeting and it was streamed and we had some way to get the information out there, every business in town have a flyer or something to hand them about what's gonna be discussed on this, at this town hall meeting for them to come or for them to watch it on stream. Maybe we can educate them that way.
I'm hoping everybody's watching now.
Well, they probably are, but until you make a decision, you get it out there for them to vote on it, they may not know what we've decided.
Oh, they're looking, there's 3 people watching right now.
Yeah,
Maybe also in the water bills, you can put a little insert that says upcoming town hall meeting to discuss whatever.
changes to the charter.
Yeah, something, because we all get the bill, it's not an additional cost. Maybe we'll type in a couple of extra lines to inform,
Find
maybe
out
big word.
Find
big
out what
letters
we
so they
can and
see it.
can't do.
Yeah, we need to
We'll
find
find
that
out what we can and can't.
Because
do.
that's something all of us receive is our water bill, so
Not
a lot of
every,
people don't go on the website.
not every resident of Keene gets a Keene water bill.
No,
They
because
get
not
some-
everybody has clean water.
Or what about those little alerts that they send instead of an emergency text alert? It could also be upcoming town hall meeting alert, something like that, that isn't gonna cost.
Most people are gonna ignore those. I wanna put something in paper in their hand that they can read at home.
Yes.
Or why don't they just hand it to them when they come in to vote? Just say,
Not enough time
Well, we are,
to process it.
we are required by law to send every registered voter an explanation and copy of all the changes that will be on the ballot.
That's what I want.
Now, it may be boring, I don't know if we're allowed some creative license to it, but eventually, every registered voter will have to get every change that is on the ballot.
can we say
before
the
the election.
logic behind the change?
Yes.
Well,
That will have,
Mr. Chester
we'll
will
have to find
give
out.
an explanation supposedly of what this means.
Maybe
that
after they
correct?
get, maybe after they get that, then they could say, after you've looked at the upcoming changes, we will have a town hall with the lawyer present and the council if they're available to answer any and all questions of the citizens, please attend. And that way they already have the changes and that way they can come and,
Yes.
that way they have a chance to look over all the changes.
That would be
And that way,
good.
okay, I need to discuss this at the town hall with the lawyer, council, whatever.
That would be
Correct.
good, that's a good idea.
Can we hand out the little flyer at the voting booth, voting spot?
Yeah, I don't want to give you the wrong information. We'll have to
Yeah.
ask the attorney
can
on
only
that,
get-
especially for how objective or subjective these things are. You know, I don't know how much of a sales pitch you can
Yeah.
do or not.
I'm not
Like,
saying-
Sort of like,
this is the wording, this
I'm
and
not
this,
saying
done.
pro or
So-
con, I'm just saying that with, this is to become in compliance with state law.
Yeah.
This is to, in the eventuality of the city manager and an unexplained absence, so that, you know, Joe Sixpack, like, I mean, I go vote, and the way they word these,
Yes.
some of these amendments, I mean, you gotta be a New York lawyer to at least, so it'd be nice for me to have in plain, I need 5th grade English. I went to public school. And so you break it down, where even if it was that day, I could read it and go, oh yeah, I agree with this makes sense. I don't wanna give those jokers $20, you know? So that's just, if we could do that, I think that'd be, because people don't attend a town hall meeting unless, when we have our little, you know, people
candidates
gonna run,
forum,
running for
candidates
office.
forum.
Yeah, you know, there's maybe 50 people in the room, well, there's 700 voters. So I think that educating them day of, to me, makes a lot of sense, if we can.
I'll find out, I'll also find out if that could be a function of this committee to work on something like that. So-
And Robert can head it up.
Okay.
Rob.
So are we reconsidering 4.09? Now that we're at that one?
I don't think so. I think we're still leaving it as it was. We had a motion.
Did we accept the vote for the city council shall be required to adopt, the majority vote?
We voted it down last time.
3.09E,
Yes.
okay, I'm sorry, I was going forward to 4.09. 3.09E, yes, that's staying.
Oh, no, I said 4.09.
Yes, that's what I thought, okay. That's the canvassing of election and declaration of results, and the runoff.
Well, 3.09 was the majority of an emergency meeting. We never did have a vote on that, did we?
No.
We didn't vote, we haven't voted on it.
I'll make a motion that we put that in there, majority of an emergency meeting.
Second.
Okay.
All of us.
Say it again. Say it. Please give the motion again. Give the motion again.
The motion is on section 3.09, letter E, to change it where the sentence reads, "The affirmative majority vote of the city council shall be required for adoption."
Okay. And a second.
He made the motion, he seconded it.
Okay,
All in
second.
favor? Okay. This is for 3.09. Majority vote of the council, okay, okay. That's okay. I feel like I'm losing control, you guys. Okay, Stephanie?
We can't hear her.
Did we didn't vote on 3.08. Procedure agreement with one of the. Yeah. We didn't vote on 3.08C yet. Does anybody else have anything before we actually vote on that one?
Can we get some clarification for staff?
Of 3.08C.
Well, now, our understanding is that we are here tonight to
Yeah, to just,
either strike these or move them
something off.
forward, because I know
Yes.
we discussed all of these last
Yeah.
time, so.
these have already.
This has already gone to the
This is
attorney,
if
so we're
you
gonna
want to
scratch all of that
not
work
put it-
last time
Yes,
and resubmit all this new work to the attorney. So we need kind of a process here.
we started out well, but it has deteriorated. Is there, okay, I'm gonna make another call for, is there anything left on here you don't want to send to the attorney?
I think we've got 4.09 is on the floor right now. Mr. Smith brought that to my attention.
Okay, he said, are we gonna vote on this again?
We voted on this before. You have to make a motion to change that vote, correct?
Yes,
I think what our city manager is getting at is, we've got a list here.
yes,
We need to go through this list and strike what we don't want,
Vote it down.
And-
Vote it down.
or vote it. Our chairperson will have to recommend that. But we bounced, like he said, we bounced all over the place here tonight. We had good discussion. We need to go through these as a list, correct?
yes. And I think that so far, we've made it down to a few where we talked about 3.06 and all of those, 3.08, 3.09. 4.09 is the next item on this list.
So it's actually off the list.
It is off the list unless somebody makes a
Right,
motion to
so-
bring it back.
So without a motion to bring it back, we move on to 501
Yes.
1A.
And I'm only asking, I'm asking if there's any more discussion on it based on Paul coming again, and then Mr. Rob Foster adding some verbiage earlier in this meeting in
Well,
regards to
he
that.
said he wanted to play devil's advocate and talk about it in response to, I'm sorry, remind me, something Bill said. I'm sorry. We've talked about too many things since then. Rob?
I just see a potential Ross Perot situation being in the offing.
With
And that,
Spoiler.
yes, that eventuality concerns me.
So in my running this year, I had more people vote against me than for me. Those three people.
Correct.
So it would have been a runoff between me and
Owen?
Mr. Owens.
So everyone is okay, and I'm reading on this paper, since we're gonna discuss it again, I'm reading on this paper, $7,000 to $10,000. Runoff election cost estimate is $7,000 to $10,000. I don't remember who made the comment last time that urged me to say, hey, are we gonna spend $10,000 of the city's money for this? Do we feel comfortable doing that? And that's the question we need to answer.
But at this time, you have an attorney that's there every meeting. 10 meetings can be $7,500,
He said 15,000 a year.
something to consider.
That was what was brought up tonight was, okay, do we have turmoil at city council to the tune of thousands in attorney fees? Or do we get the right candidate in here based on the majority of the voters? And then hopefully that causes a calmness by who's up here at council.
But what we're talking about today is whether or not we're going to put this out on the ballot as an item, an amendment item. And so we were going to either strike it or leave it. So that's what our discussion is, because just because we're talking about it here doesn't mean it will go one way or the other. Are we going to keep it on and put it on the ballot?
Well, that's what we're trying to determine now with this discussion is it warrant? So yes, there's the fee, there's the cost of the other election. No, say $10,000. But I've been a council member for 5 years, and we never had the turmoil that we have prior to the turmoil that we have in office now. And granted, it was a two-way race, but it could be very easily a three-way race this next election, and we might not get the candidate that the majority of people want, if that makes sense,
And when you,
with a three-way race.
and can I get you to clarify? You were saying that if it cost us $7,000 to $10,000 for a runoff, but we're paying $15,000 a year for an attorney to sit in to our council meetings just to sit there to not have any turmoil.
Just a parliament,
Yes, that's, and there's also the benefit of the turmoil caused by that possibly potential of losing businesses who want to come to Keene because they're saying, hey, that council is such a circus, I'm going to go down the road. And circus, I think, is the right word. Now, granted, it's calmed down some since we got the code of conduct.
That is true, because people are not wanting to come here. I'm glad Ossip's and Tractor Supply
talked
wants
to-
to come because
I talked to another city manager not far from here, and they were saying that they're glad that we have the circus that we have. So,
Can I
say $10,000 in a $5 million budget is not that, $10,000 is, if you had one business come here, sales tax, that stuff adds up. And maybe we don't have a runoff, maybe we do. And I'd like to see, and I'm sure this is not, we couldn't put it in the verbiage, but the mayor being the only position that the runoff applied to. So, I'm done. Over and out.
Now, yeah, as far as, the costs can be seen, whether it applies to the mayor or to the other people. But I would like to go forward with this and make a motion to put this on the ballot let the people decide.
So take it back for the attorney to write something up. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Let's make sure we understand what we're voting for. Can you repeat the motion?
Okay.
Okay, I would like to motion to change from
Plurality.
plurality to majority and have the attorney write this up.
To have the runoff elections.
Yes.
If necessary.
So,
Yeah, let the people.
And this runoff election to affect all seats or the mayor's?
All seats.
That language
Yes.
is determined by the attorney.
it's going to cost the same probably to do a
Yeah.
runoff election,
one or
whether
four.
it's all seats or just one, anyway. So, okay, to
Now-
affect all,
It's not 10,000 per seat, it's
It's
No,
the
no.
election,
right,
just for the election.
whether you have 1 or 10.
Yeah.
It's the same fee.
okay. Does that sound correct to you? Okay. And we have a second? All in favor?
All in favor now to do what? To put it on the ballot.
Yeah. Ray, I don't know if he has his hand up or not.
I think he's asleep.
Opposed? Okay, all in favor?
Hang on, we got one that's out of service.
Great.
Push his chair.
He's abstaining.
Okay. Opposed?
You just voted to terminate yourself, man.
Hey, are you opposed, one opposed? Are you opposed to that motion? Are you opposed to putting the consideration of the majority vote with the runoff instead of plurality?
Yes.
You are opposed to that? Okay.
You're not for it?
Okay, let's move to 5.01A1. I think we've skipped around. The commission decided to keep the word prior in the paragraph and proceed with the other changes as suggested. Are you still wanting to keep that?
So moved.
Okay. So move. Second? Let's,
I second.
a second. All in favor? Okay.
Opposed?
Opposed? Okay. You want to strike prior, is there? I did. And
Oh, I thought
this-
that's what we were voting on. I-
Okay. Trying to,
501D.
you're totally, Gwen is discouraged. It's too confusing.
She was, we just voted that one.
Okay.
Finish that. You just voted on that. So
So,
501D, we strike that?
501D, no discussion, there was no discussion as to the suggested change. Makes the paragraph align with section 305C. We had that discussion previously.
Says consistent.
And that, So 6
So
point.
what is D gonna read then?
It's consistent with.
Go back to that and read it to us.
The absence of disability manager.
City council designates?
The city council designates,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, Holly was going to read it to us.
In the absence or disability of the city manager, the city council appointed designee will perform the duties of the office with the approval of the city council.
We're going to vote on each and every one of these now? Or is that fine, to leave that as is?
Leave it.
Okay. 5.01D, no discussion as suggested change makes the paragraph align with 305C. Okay, 6.16F, borrowing. He noted that there's no need to cite the legal code in the charter, as it may change at any time, thus prompting the charter to be changed as well. This suggested addition will be struck. Leaving the change of removing all but the first sentence is sufficient to be compliant with state law.
Is that, do we,
I
do
guess
we
we
care
have
about
to
that?
leave that.
No, it's city attorney recommends it. We need,
Yeah.
that's what we need to do.
We have to leave that item because that will put us in compliance. 10.02 and 10.05, the petitioners committee. This was to eliminate the petitioners committee in the recall process. I guess it's for making, it's for all of the various processes. 10.02.
I'd stay away from all of it. I make a motion to strike that whole thing. I think we need to stay away from anything revolving recalls. I don't want to see a single recall item on the vote. That's my motion.
I think we already had a motion on it.
On the last council, the last meeting.
The registered voters have the right to remove someone.
He's making a motion to remove it, so it's an opposite motion from last time.
Mr. Easton wants to put it back.
No, yeah, put it back the way it was. I don't want to mess with anything to do with recalls.
You want to leave the petitioners committee there?
Leave it alone. If the lawyer didn't recommend it to do it, we don't need to be messing with it.
Okay, explain to me what it is you're asking here, 'cause
In the last meeting, they made a motion, it was accepted to strike the whole petitioners committee from the recall, which means now it has to go to the voters to get that approved. I want to stay away from anything to do with recalls. I only want to mess with items that the lawyer says we need to fix to make this charter compliant with state law. This isn't part of that.
Okay, well, I thought that when we were talking at the last charter meeting that we didn't, the motion was for us not to have the committee of 20 at the beginning.
That is what the motion
Right,
was,
that's-
but he's saying to not touch it at all.
To leave it
He's wanting
alone.
to bring it back.
We're trying to pare these items down and get less
Yeah,
items
yeah,
on the
yeah.
agenda.
Well, that's
on-
fine,
on
I
the
just
vote,
wanted to
yeah.
understand
Yeah.
what we were doing.
Because it's just going to make the voters, and this is a hot button issue.
We have a second?
So he has a motion, is there a second for that?
So just leaving it alone.
And if it dies, that's okay.
Is there a second? To leave it alone and not change it and not put it on the ballot? Which is Mr. Easley's.
Make a motion to leave it the way it is?
I did, now we need
Oh,
a second.
you made a
If
motion,
it
is there a
dies for a
second?
second.
I'll
that's
second
okay.
it.
Okay. All in favor?
All right.
Leave it the way it is.
That's the members have
Opposed?
spoke.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, we're going to change it.
It's gonna stay on the list.
It's
Yes,
going
it
to
stays
stay
the
on
list. That's all it is,
this,
it
yes.
stays on the list.
We'll see what the voters want to do. 10.09, there was no discussion on this section as the proposed changes correct the words. 1109, no officer or employee shall accept gifts. He noted this paragraph is tied to state law, so there's no change made to this section.
So if there's no change, is it not on the list?
It's off the list if there's no change. That's my understanding.
Yeah. Okay, we've completed it.
So, how much does that get us down to? Did you keep track? Okay. I think everybody, I would entertain a motion to
I
adjourn.
have one thing. Can Holly go over this list and just say,
Yea or nay?
yeah, and if you just say the ones that are not going to be discussed anymore?
You got 5 minutes.
Okay, so I have section 3.02, is the expense reimbursement, we're striking that. Keep. My understanding is 3.05C, you were asking for more information from the attorney, so there was no decision. And 3.06B, need more information, or getting the verbiage from the attorney before a decision. Keep. 4.09 will be back on the change. Oh, that one's a keep, okay, keep.
Looks like Paul may not want you to come get that paint after all.
And then 11.09, of course, is off the list as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's what I have.
That's what I had to.
Okay, so those are the things that we need to look at.
Okay.
Citizens are not going to.
Does it make a difference whether it's passed or not?
Yes, we got two.
Okay. Adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. This was less than a stellar meeting.